The illusion of honor. The conference room smelled of recycled air and cold metal. Admiral Elena Kovac stood before the holographic display, watching blue and red vectors dance across star systems like a deadly chess game. Around the long table, officers from a dozen human colonies sat in crisp uniforms, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of data screens. "They're testing us again," said Commander Chin, his finger tracing a route along the outer rim. "Fourth convoy this month. They disable the ships, board them, take supplies, but they let the crews go." Elena nodded slowly. The Vakran Empire had been at war with humanity for 3 years now. 3 years of skirmishes, territorial disputes, and careful escalation. Both sides danced around the unspoken rules. No chemical weapons, no planetary bombardment, no execution of prisoners. It was a civilized war. Or so they believed. "Their pattern is consistent," Elena said, her voice steady. "They're pushing boundaries but staying within the accords. We do the same." Across the table, Captain Williams cleared his throat. He was young, barely 30, with the kind of idealism that hadn't yet been ground down by reality. "Admiral, with respect, some of the border colonies are asking why we don't hit them harder. We have the capability." Elena's eyes met his. Cold. Measured. "Because, Captain, we are not them. We follow the rules of war because those rules protect everyone, including our own people when they're captured. The moment we abandon the accords, we give them permission to do the same." Silence filled the room. She pulled up another display, casualty reports, prisoner exchanges, diplomatic channels still barely functioning. "We fight with honor because honor is what separates us from extinction-level conflict. We've seen what happens when species abandon restraint. We've studied the burn wars, the Shrell extinction, Her communicator chirped. Everyone's did. The sound cut through the room like a blade. "Priority Alpha. Emergency transmission." Elena's fingers moved across her console, accepting the feed. The holographic display flickered, then resolved into an image that would change everything. It was a broadcast. Public. Transmitted across every major network, every diplomatic channel, every frequency humanity monitored. The Vakran commander stood in the center of the frame, his 4 eyes gleaming with something that might have been satisfaction. Behind him, 20 human prisoners knelt in a row, hands bound, uniforms torn and stained. Elena recognized some of the faces. Crew from the Meridian. The supply ship that had gone dark 2 weeks ago. The Vakran commander spoke in accented but clear human standard. "Humanity speaks of honor. Of rules. Of mercy." His mandibles clicked in what their xenolinguists had identified as contempt. "You cling to your accords like children cling to blankets. You believe restraint makes you noble." He walked behind the prisoners, his clawed hand resting on the shoulder of the first one, a young woman barely out of the academy. "We have shown you patience. We have played your game of civilized warfare. But you mistake our participation for weakness." Elena's hands gripped the edge of the table. Around her, officers sat frozen. "So today we teach you what war truly is." The Vakran commander drew his sidearm. "No," someone whispered in the conference room. The first shot echoed through the transmission. Then the second. Then the third. One by one, methodically, without rage or hesitation, he executed every prisoner. 20 human souls, extinguished in less than 2 minutes. The broadcast didn't end. The Vakran commander stepped over the bodies, his eyes staring directly into the camera. "This is mercy, humanity. We could have made it slower. We could have broadcast their screams. Consider this our gift, a quick death for your warriors." He smiled. "We await your next move in this honorable war of yours." The transmission cut to black. In the conference room no one spoke. No one moved. Elena Kovac stared at the empty holographic space where 20 lives had just been erased. Her face remained calm, controlled, years of command training holding her expression in place. But her hands, still gripping the table's edge, had gone white at the knuckles. Captain Williams broke the silence first, his voice barely a whisper. "Admiral, what do we do?" Elena didn't answer immediately. She was thinking about the rules. About the accords. About every treaty humanity had signed promising to wage war with restraint, with honor, with the understanding that both sides valued life. She was thinking about how all of those promises had just died with 20 unarmed prisoners. Slowly, carefully she straightened. "Captain Chin, send word to Earth Command. Attach the full broadcast. Priority override Omega." "Yes, Admiral." "Commander Williams, pull all humanitarian aid shipments to Vakran refugees. Effective immediately." "Admiral." Her voice didn't rise but it cut like frozen steel. "Do it." She looked around the room at faces still processing what they'd witnessed. Young officers who'd joined believing in noble causes. Veterans who'd seen combat but never this. As of this moment, Elena said quietly, we operate under the assumption that the accords are void. We will not initiate violations, but we will no longer limit our response to enemy actions based on treaties they've proven they don't honor. Someone started to object. She didn't see who. I want tactical options on my desk within the hour. Not the ones we've been using. The other ones. Understanding rippled through the room. The other options. The strategies they'd developed but never deployed. The weapons they'd built but kept locked away. The doctrines written in case humanity ever faced an enemy that didn't value mercy. Dismissed. They filed out in silence, leaving Elena alone with the empty holographic display. She pulled up the casualty list one more time. 20 names. 20 families who would receive notifications. 20 funeral services that would be held across human space. Her hand hovered over the console, trembling now that no one could see. Then she pressed a single button, opening a secure channel that hadn't been used in over a century. The line connected. A voice answered, old, tired but still sharp. Admiral Kovac. I saw the broadcast. Director Hayes, Elena said softly. I need you to open the Black Archive. Pause. Are you certain? Elena looked at the frozen image of the Vakran commander, his satisfied smile burned into her memory. They killed our people on their knees, Director. Broadcast it like entertainment. They wanted to teach us a lesson about war. Her voice dropped to something colder than the void between stars. It's time we taught them one back. The silence. The galaxy noticed the silence first. For 72 hours after the broadcast, humanity said nothing. No diplomatic protests. No emergency Security Council meetings. No furious declarations transmitted across every channel. Just silence. The Galactic News Network ran speculation pieces. Analysts debated whether humanity was paralyzed by shock or preparing a response. The Thaurian ambassador to Earth requested an audience and was politely told that scheduling conflicts made meetings impossible for the foreseeable future. The Vakran Empire celebrated. Their state media played the execution footage on loop, commentary praising Commander Zelkatha's decisive action, and teaching humanity its place. Military recruitment surged. Their high command began planning the next offensive, emboldened by what they saw as human weakness. They had wanted fear. They got silence instead. They should have been terrified. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Director Marcus Hayes walked through corridors that hadn't seen traffic in 93 years. The Black Archive. The walls here were older than modern humanity's ventures into space. Built during the Unification Wars, when humans fought humans with weapons so terrible that their mere existence became classified above top secret. Sealed away when humanity reached the stars and decided, collectively, that some knowledge was too dangerous to use. Until now. Hayes's footsteps echoed on metal floors as he passed door after door, each marked with designation codes and languages that predated standard English. Behind him, Admiral Kovac walked in silence, her face unreadable. When we built this place, Hayes said, his voice rough with age, we made a promise. That we'd only open these doors if humanity faced extinction. If every other option failed. They executed prisoners on camera, Marcus. Made it entertainment. I know. He stopped before a massive vault door, its surface covered in biometric locks and quantum encryption that would take 1,000 years to crack. But once we use what's in here, Elena, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we're capable of. They'll fear us. Elena met his eyes. Good. Hayes studied her for a long moment, then placed his hand on the scanner. Retinal scan. DNA verification. Neural pattern confirmation. The locks disengaged one by one, each click echoing like a countdown. The door opened with a hiss of equalized pressure. Inside, the lights activated automatically, revealing row upon row of storage units. Data cores. Weapons schematics. Strategic doctrines. Every nightmare humanity had ever conceived, cataloged and preserved. Welcome, Hayes said quietly, to everything we promised we'd never become. Across human space the mobilization began. Not the obvious kind. No massive fleet movements. No public declarations of total war. Instead, something subtler and far more dangerous. In the shipyards of Mars, construction crews received new specifications. The cargo vessels they'd been building had their designs quietly altered. Reinforced hulls, upgraded power cores, weapon mounts that didn't appear on any official manifest. On Earth, the strategic command yawl, Zhao 1 reserve officers who'd retired years ago. Men and women with specializations that hadn't been needed in peacetime. Psychological operations. Information warfare. Specialists in tactics that the Accords had forbidden. In the research stations orbiting Jupiter, scientists unsealed projects that had been mothballed decades ago. Weapons systems that had been deemed too effective. Technologies that violated the spirit, if not the letter, of every treaty humanity had signed. And in the border colonies, civilian populations received quiet instructions. Evacuation protocols. Fallback positions. Preparations for a kind of warfare the current generation had never seen. The Vakran Empire monitored all of this with their intelligence networks. They saw the troop movements, the construction, the communications blackouts. Their analysts debated the meaning. "They're preparing defenses," said one report. "Pulling back to fortified positions. Clearly, our demonstration had the desired effect." The Vakran High Command agreed. Humanity was afraid. Retreating. Perfect. They didn't understand what they were seeing. Humanity wasn't retreating. Humanity was getting everyone out of the blast radius. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Nightfall, a ship that officially didn't exist in any naval registry. It had been built in the Black Archives construction bays, using specifications from before the Accords. No running lights. Hull coating that absorbed sensor pings. Reactor signatures that could mimic asteroids or debris. A ghost ship. Around her, the crew worked in silence. No chatter. No music. No personality. They'd been trained for this, selected from volunteers who understood that what they were about to do would never appear in any official record. No medals. No recognition. No glory. Just results. "Status," Shin said quietly. "All systems nominal, Captain. Stealth package at maximum efficiency. They won't see us coming." On the main display, the Vakran military depot rotated slowly in the black. A massive station, protected by patrol ships and defensive platforms. A fortress. Chin thought about the broadcast. The execution. The smile on Commander Zelkatha's face. "Weapons free," she said. "Make it clean." The Nightfall drifted closer, a shadow among shadows. Its weapons weren't designed for ship-to-ship combat, not in the traditional sense. These were precision instruments. Surgical tools. The first missiles launched without a sound, their drives barely whispers in the void. They weren't carrying conventional warheads. Instead, each one held something far more insidious, nanophage swarms, designed to dismantle shield generators at the molecular level. The Vakran station's defenses never activated. By the time their sensors registered the attack, the shields were already gone. The second wave hit 3 seconds later. Kinetic penetrators moving at 0.3 C, punching through hull plating like paper. No explosions. No fire. Just catastrophic decompression and structural collapse. 30 seconds. That's how long it took to reduce a military installation housing 15,000 Vakran soldiers into expanding debris. Chin watched the destruction with no satisfaction, no joy, no anger. Just cold professional assessment. Target eliminated. Signatures clean. Scanning for survivors. There were none. Helm, plot course for the next position. Communications, transmit success code to Fleet Command. Aye, Captain. The Nightfall slipped away into the dark, leaving no trace it had ever been there. Just a mystery. A station that had simply stopped existing. It was the first. It wouldn't be the last. 3 days after the broadcast, the Vakran High Command received their first report. Outpost Gamma 7 had gone silent. No distress call. No debris field detected. Just silence. Probably a communications failure, the duty officer reported. "We're sending a patrol to investigate." The patrol found nothing. No station. No wreckage. Just empty space where a military installation should have been. Before they could report back, the patrol itself vanished. Then Outpost Theta 12. Then the supply depot at Kelver 3. Then the communications relay at Proxima Reach. One by one, Vakran military assets simply disappeared. No battles. No warnings. No survivors. The High Command convened emergency sessions. Their intelligence analysts pored over sensor logs, finding nothing. Ghost signatures. Phantom readings. Shadows that might have been ships or might have been sensor glitches. "It's humanity," insisted General Vrecker. "It has to be. This started right after our demonstration." "Then where are they?" demanded the High Commander. "Where are their fleets? Where are their declarations of war? Where is their fury?" No one had an answer. Humanity remained silent. And in that silence, the Vakran Empire began to feel something it hadn't experienced in generations. Fear. In her office on Luna, Admiral Kovac reviewed the operational reports. 27 Vakran military installations eliminated. 0 human casualties. 0 witnesses. The files glowed softly on her screen, each one representing a piece of the Vakran war machine that no longer existed. She felt nothing looking at them. No triumph. No guilt. Just the cold certainty that this was necessary. A chime at her door. Enter. Director Hayes stepped inside, looking older than he had a week ago. The weight of what they'd unleashed was visible in every line of his face. The Thaurian ambassador is requesting an emergency meeting. 3rd time this week. He's concerned. Let him be concerned. Elena, the other species are starting to ask questions. The Vakran losses are too precise, too surgical. They're scared that if we can do this to the Vakran, we can do it to anyone. Kovac looked up from her reports, her expression unreadable. Good. Hayes sighed, settling into the chair across from her desk. You know where this leads. Once we're seen as too dangerous, too ruthless, the other species will unite against us. We'll be the monsters. They watched those executions, Marcus. Every species in the galaxy saw that broadcast. And do you know how many of them formally condemned it? How many demanded justice? She didn't wait for an answer. 0. Not one. They were too busy calculating how it affected their own interests. The Thaurians worried it would disrupt trade. The Hexari wondered if they should side with the Vakran. The Solarians published think pieces about cultural differences in warfare. Her voice remained calm, but something cold glinted in her eyes. They watched our people die and did nothing. So forgive me if I don't particularly care about their concerns now. Hayes was quiet for a moment. And when it's over? When the Vakran sue for peace? Then we'll see if they've learned anything. Another chime. This time, Commander Williams appeared on the screen. Admiral, we have confirmation. The Vakran are pulling forces back from the front lines. Consolidating around their core worlds. They're going defensive. Kovac nodded slowly. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. Ma'am? Phase 2 is. I know what it is, Commander. Execute. The screen went dark. Hayes stood to leave, then paused at the door. Elena, when this is over, when the history books talk about this moment, what do you want them to say? She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much and decided too much. That humanity tried peace. That we honored the rules. That we showed mercy until mercy became a weapon against us. She turned back to her reports. And that when forced to choose between being seen as monsters or letting our people die unavenged, we chose to be monsters. Hayes left without another word. Alone in her office, Admiral Elena Kovac pulled up the execution footage one more time. 20 faces. 20 names. 20 lives ended while the galaxy watched. She memorized each face. Then she returned to planning Phase 2. Somewhere in Vakran space, in a bunker that was supposed to be secret, Commander Zelkith watched his militaries collapse with growing panic. The human counterattack wasn't what he'd expected. No massive fleet battles. No desperate charges. No rage-filled broadcasts. Just a silent, methodical dismantling of everything his empire had built. And the worst part, the part that kept him awake in the thin hours of artificial night, was the certainty that this was only the beginning. Humanity had sent a message of their own. They just hadn't used words. The reckoning. The Vakran High Command met in their war chamber deep beneath the capital city of Thelkar. Around the circular table, military leaders who had boasted of conquest 3 weeks ago now sat in tense silence. The holographic display above them told a story of systematic destruction. Red indicators marking lost installations, broken supply lines, entire sectors gone dark. High Commander Thrakis' 4 eyes swept across the faces of his generals. He saw fear there. Good. They should be afraid. 17 days, he said, his voice a low growl. In 17 days, humanity has erased 40% of our military infrastructure. No warnings. No demands. No survivors. General Vrecker shifted uncomfortably. High Commander, we've increased patrols, fortified positions, tripled sensor coverage. But they strike where we're not looking. They're using weapons we've never encountered. Technology that shouldn't. Technology we forced them to use, Thrakis interrupted. His mandibles clicked in what might have been regret. Commander Zelkith's demonstration was supposed to break their spirit. Instead, we broke something else. Something that was keeping us safe. Silence. Where is Zelkith? Asked another general. In protective custody. The moment humanity learns his location, he's dead. They've already destroyed 3 facilities suspected of housing him. The display flickered, showing new intelligence. A communications intercept, heavily encrypted but partially decoded. A human voice, calm and cold. Phase 2 authorization confirmed. Target package delivered. Await results. What's Phase 2? Vrecker asked. No one answered because no one knew. They were about to find out. The Vakran homeworld of Thelkar was supposed to be impregnable. Orbital defense platforms. Planetary shield generators. A fleet of capital ships in constant patrol. Layers upon layers of protection built over centuries of military expansion. Captain Chen's nightfall drifted through all of it like smoke through a screen door. We're inside the orbital perimeter, her XO whispered, as if speaking too loud might give them away. Defensive grid is, they're not even looking in our direction. Why would they? Chen replied. According to their sensors, we're a decommissioned satellite. Just debris in a degrading orbit. On her tactical display, the real target pulsed with a soft red glow. Not a military installation this time. Not a shipyard or weapons depot. The central communications hub. Every broadcast. Every transmission. Every propaganda message the Vakran Empire sent to its citizens and the galaxy beyond, all of it flowed through that single facility. Payload ready? Chen asked. Charged and locked, Captain. The 6 is primed. Not a weapon exactly. Something more elegant. More permanent. A virus. But not the kind that destroyed systems. The kind that controlled them. Deploy. The infiltration package launched silently, a microscopic dart of compressed code. It drifted toward the communications hub's data streams, undetectable, unstoppable. Contact. On Chen's screen, lines of code began flowing, the virus worming through security protocols, rewriting authentication keys, establishing backdoors in every major system. 30 seconds later, humanity owned the Vakran Empire's voice. Package confirmed. Full access established. Her communications officer looked up, eyes wide. Captain, we control everything. Their news networks, military channels, civilian broadcasts, all of it. Chen allowed herself the smallest smile. Send the signal. Begin Phase 2. Across Vakran space, on every screen, every display, every communication device, the signal went out simultaneously. The regular programming cut to black. Then a simple message appeared, written in flawless Vakran script. Attention, this is humanity. In bunkers and homes and military installations across 100 worlds, Vakran citizens froze. 3 weeks ago, your government broadcast the execution of 20 unarmed human prisoners. They called it a lesson. They smiled while our people died. The screen changed. Footage began playing, not of the execution but of what came after. Vakran military installations disintegrating under silent attack. Supply convoys vanishing. Defensive platforms crumbling like sand. All of it documented, all of it precise, all of it devastating. This is what happened when your leaders mistook our mercy for weakness. In the high command bunker, alarms screamed. Technicians scrambled to regain control of their own systems, fingers flying across consoles in desperate panic. Shut it down. Thrakis roared. Cut the transmission. We can't, High Commander. They've locked us out of our own networks. On every screen, the message continued. We did not start this war. We did not choose escalation. We followed the rules because we believed both sides valued life. You taught us differently. The footage changed again. This time it showed Vakran civilians. Not soldiers, ordinary people going about their lives. Shopping in markets. Walking through parks. Children playing in schoolyards. The camera work was recent. Crystal clear. Unmistakably human in origin. The implication was obvious. We can reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. But understand this, we are not your government. We do not wage war on the innocent. We have disabled your military infrastructure. We have eliminated your capacity to threaten our people. We have proven that your defenses cannot stop us. And yet your cities stand. Your civilians live. Your children sleep safely in their beds. Because unlike your leaders, we choose who pays for this war. In living rooms across the Vakran Empire, civilians stared at their screens in stunned silence. Many had believed the government propaganda, that humanity was weak, that the war was righteous, that victory was certain. Now they saw something else. They saw that humanity had held a knife to their throats for weeks and chosen not to cut. To the Vakran people, your government started this. Your military committed atrocities. But you, the teachers, the workers, the families, you are not our enemy. Demand better from those who claim to lead you. The screen went black for 3 seconds. When it returned, the message had changed. To the Vakran High Command, you have 72 hours. Commander Zelkith will be surrendered to human custody for trial. Reparations will be paid to the families of the executed. Your military will withdraw from all contested territories. If you refuse, we will not bomb your cities or harm your civilians. We will simply continue what we've been doing. In 6 months you will have no military, no defenses, no capacity to protect yourselves from anyone. And when other species see how easily we dismantled you, when they realize you cannot defend your own borders, well, the galaxy has a long memory for weakness. The transmission ended. Normal programming resumed as if nothing had happened, but every Vakran citizen now knew the truth. Their government had started a war they couldn't win, had committed atrocities that sealed their fate. And humanity, the species they'd been told was soft, weak, bound by rules, had spent weeks proving they could end the Vakran Empire whenever they chose. They just preferred not to. In the High Command bunker, the silence was deafening. Thrakis stared at the blank screen, his mind calculating options and finding none. They'd been checkmated by an enemy who'd never shown their face, never raised their voice, never descended to the barbarism Zelkith had hoped to provoke. "Get me Commander Zelkith," he said quietly. "High Commander? Now." 10 minutes later, Zelkith stood before the council. He looked smaller than before, his confidence eroded by weeks in hiding, his face gaunt from stress. "You wanted to teach humanity a lesson," Thrakis said, his voice deadly calm. "You wanted to show them the true nature of war. To break their spirit with fear." Zelkith said nothing. "Congratulations, Commander. You succeeded." Thrakis stood, towering over the smaller officer. "You showed them that mercy is wasted on enemies like us. That honor is a handicap. That the only way to truly end a war is to make victory so absolute, so overwhelming, that no one dares to challenge you again." He gestured to the screens showing their crumbling military infrastructure. "They learned the lesson. Unfortunately, we were the demonstration. High Commander, we can still fight. If we mobilize the reserves, consolidate." "With what?" Vrecker interrupted. "They've destroyed our shipyards. Our weapons depots. Our communications infrastructure is compromised. And in 72 hours, they'll start dismantling what's left. More than that," Thrakis added softly. "They've turned our own people against us. Did you see the civilian channels? The protests forming in the capital? Our people now know we started a war we can't win and that humanity is showing more mercy to them than their own government did to human prisoners." He moved closer to Zelkith. "You wanted to be remembered, Commander? To make your mark on history." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Congratulations. You'll be remembered as the fool who woke a sleeping giant and forced it to show the galaxy exactly why it had been sleeping in the first place." Thrakis turned to his guards. "Prepare Commander Zelkith for transfer to human custody. Full cooperation. No delays." "High Commander, you can't." "I can and I will. Because in 72 hours, if you're not in their hands, they'll dismantle what's left of our fleet. And then someone else, the Hexari, the Solarians, someone, will see our weakness and finish what humanity started." He looked at his council, seeing the reality settling on their faces. "We're surrendering. Full terms. Reparations, withdrawals, everything they demanded. And we're doing it publicly so the entire galaxy knows that we recognize humanity's victory. That's humiliating. That's survival," Thrakis snapped. "Because the alternative is extinction. Humanity has proven they can erase us from existence without breaking a sweat. The only reason we still exist is because they chose to let us live." He gestured to the screens again. That broadcast wasn't a threat. It was mercy wearing the face of a warning. They're giving us a chance to end this before they have to end us. The weight of that truth settled over the chamber. They'd started a war believing humanity's adherence to rules was weakness. They'd learned it was restraint. And restraint, once broken, revealed something far more terrifying than rage. 71 hours later, Commander Zelkith was delivered to the neutral station at Proxima Station Alpha, bound and stripped of rank. He knelt before a human tribunal, finally understanding what he'd done. The trial lasted 4 days. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The process was fair, thorough, and conducted according to the very accords Zelkith had violated. He was convicted of war crimes. The sentence was life imprisonment, to be served in a facility where he would have decades to contemplate the difference between cruelty and justice. As guards led him away, Zelkith looked back at the human judges. "You could have just killed me," he said quietly. "Made it quick. Why didn't you?" Admiral Kovac, presiding over the tribunal, met his eyes. "Because, Commander, we are not you." She stood, her voice carrying through the chamber. "You executed unarmed prisoners to send a message of fear. We're sending a different message." She gestured to the observers, representatives from dozens of species who'd come to witness the trial. "Mercy is not